To you from the Kempinski Gold Coast City Hotel right here in Accra, where the Ghana Investment Promotion Center is having its maiden annual business summit, and they are going to be looking at ways of reviving interest for investments in Ghana and to also restore economic growth and have investors shift their focus to Ghana, as Ghana is known to be the gateway for Africa. We are always leading by example, and of course this is a good initiative because COVID is still here with us, and it's been almost 18 months or more than 18 months since COVID came in. And so today we have the president who is gracing the occasion. He is actually doing the keynote speaking, so he will be opening the program, and we have the Trade and Industries Minister, Honorable Alantra Mating. Kojo Oponkroma will also be talking, and we have other high-profile personalities also gracing the platform to speak. Of course, Diplomatic Affairs is live every Saturday on Pan-African television between the hours of 4 to 5. My name is Harriet Nate. I will be taking you inside in a bit as we talk about SPAC Up 2021, an initiative of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center.
His Excellency the President. Distinguished guests, thank you so much. Akwaba, Your Excellency, thank you very much. At this point, I'd kindly like to indicate all protocols observed. We're here for an important conversation and engagement about investment. I'll call on the Minister for Information, Honorable Kojo Oponkroma, to give us the welcome address.
Mr. President, good morning and welcome. You are here this morning in the company of the Minister of State for the Ministry of Finance, the Honorable Charles Edubuahin, the Deputy Minister for Trade, the Honorable Herbert Krapper, Deputy Minister for Finance, the Honorable Abena Osei-Asare, Chief Executive of the GIPC, Mr. Yofi Grant. Captains of industry and thousands of Ghanaians have also joined us online and on media platforms for this morning's engagement. Mr. President, you only returned last night from your tours in the Western and Western North regions, and you are billed to continue to the Oti and Volta regions later this week. But you are here this morning as part of your work around the clock to ensure that your administration's social contract with the people of Ghana is fulfilled, but even more importantly, that the Ghanaian economy recovers quickly from the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic, so that the jobs, the incomes, the improvement in quality of lives, which you started generating in the first term, will continue in the second term. One of the major instruments that you have championed since 2017 is attracting investments into the Ghanaian economy to take advantage of the significantly improved macroeconomic environment. Because you believe that when private capital is planted on fertile, favorable economic land, the harvest will abound. You instructed us, Mr. President, at the Ministry of Information to continue with efforts to keep the Ghanaian and international public informed of and involved in the efforts that you are making in stimulating a quick and broad-based recovery after COVID. It is pursuant to your instructions and your vision that we have brought together today the Ministry of Finance, which is responsible for leading the efforts to create the enabling environment, the Ministry of Trade, which plays a key role in generating investor interest and setting policy direction for investments, and the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, which takes the lead role in pulling in investment into the Ghanaian economy. Mr. President, we've also brought together scores of investors and potential investors, some of who have already successfully set up and are operating in Ghana, some of who are also yet to settle. Key at today's gathering are also the public institutions and other stakeholders who are responsible for facilitating the onboarding of these FDIs. The speed and convenience with which they pay particular attention to the services that they offer investors go a long way to determine how quickly these investments can be onboarded, so that the jobs, the growth, and the development we expect can unfold. After this opening ceremony this morning, there are two panel discussions. The first will help us update the whole country on the status of the nearly $2.7 billion of investment that your administration, yourself personally, your ministers and agencies brought into Ghana in the year 2020. The investors themselves will share with us their own experiences and give feedback on how we can quicken the onboarding process. The public agencies will also join us for a second panel discussion to share their experiences and provide guidance on how other stakeholders can support so that we quickly and successfully onboard the many investors knocking on our doors. On behalf of the GIPC, the Ministries of Finance, Trade and Information, Mr. President, ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, you are all welcome.
Let's turn our attention to Ghana's FDI trends, the outlook for 2021 and beyond. Let's invite the CEO of the GIPC, Mr. Yofi Grant, for this presentation.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Ghana story, I must say, is a very compelling story and has become even more compelling and attractive since 2017, when His Excellency the President took over. And through fiscal consolidation, significant reforms of the economy, better management of the public debt, and a yearning desire to transform the economy into a modern economy, implemented plans and objectives that set us on the path of recovery, but not just recovery, but growth. The GIPC is an office under the presidency, and so we are having this event really under the auspices of the presidency to show what we've done, the stewardship that we've done, and the way forward, and to embrace and engage all to really bring fruit to Ghana's centrality in Africa's desire to move away from a continent that imports all products from its own exports of raw materials and resources, that is converting our economies into productivity and value added. But we'll focus on Ghana for today. And there are 10 reasons why most investors will look at Ghana. First of all, I dare say that Ghana is in the center of the world. It's the only country on latitude 0 and longitude 0. And therefore logistically very well placed. But not just that. Ghana has had a pedigree of leadership on the African continent. From 1957, when it spearheaded the political emancipation of the continent. And today, Ghana is repositioning once again to spearhead the leadership of the African continent and joining it to the global financial sector and bringing about wealth creation on the continent, thereby bringing African financial and economic emancipation. There are 10 reasons why I think that Ghana will remain interesting. The first one is that we have an enviable democratic governance and political stability, which is key for every investor, and we have demonstrated that. We've been able to develop a strong and resilient economy. And from 2017, for 3 years, Ghana's economy grew at an average rate of 7%, one of the leading economic growths on the world, not just the continent. And even in 2020, when the region showed deep recession of minus 3.3%, Ghana's economy still grew positively at 0.4%. And Ghana, along with South Korea, have been pointed out as the two countries that have shown great preparedness in managing the COVID pandemic. But we are still in the pandemic, it's not over, and so we still keep our fingers crossed and work hard to do that. Additionally, we have a human capital advantage on the continent. And recent policies of the free senior high school will reposition Ghana as a major supplier of labor, and we're also equipping our young people to be able to take on the challenge of an economy in transition. We also have better trade logistics and infrastructure, and quite recently, the Tema port has been expanded to be potentially the largest port in Africa, to be able to do 3.7 million TEUs of cargo. We have vast and diverse natural resource endowments, and Ghana has almost any mineral that is in demand today: gold, diamond, timber, bauxite, manganese, lithium, iron ore, oil and gas, and many other ornamental minerals, and particularly lithium, which is very much required for the new economy of Industry 4.0, moving on to Industry 5.0. We are also a member of the regional international trade bodies. As a partner in WTO and having leadership of ECOWAS, we are very well positioned to negotiate many contracts, and we have significant contracts signed, bilateral investment treaties, and double taxation treaties with many of our partners. And of course, Ghana's great hospitality is undoubted. And I see many faces here that I know are not originally Ghanaian. And it's that hospitality that has brought you here. We thank you for staying and being with us. But even more importantly is our yearning desire to continuously and increasingly improve the ease of doing business. And we have had significant reforms, both at the trade level and at the investment level, to ensure that as we go into the future, Ghana becomes one of the best places to do business, not only in West Africa, but in Africa, and also one of the most attractive places to invest. And then, of course, that has led to a very enabling and competitive business environment, one which we are very proud of. And last but not the least, as I mentioned, and as mentioned it first, a favorable geographical location to facilitate the easy access to the world. And indeed, from Ghana, you are only 8 hours away from almost all the major regions of the world. So yes, we have all these endowments, but these endowments could not have put us where we are without the instructive and firm and strong leadership of His Excellency the President, who has declared that Ghana should be the best place to do business on the continent and the most attractive place to invest on the continent. AFCFTA does give us a unique opportunity. And once again, Ghana is acting as a spearhead for this whole transformation of the African continent. Africa is very well endowed, but unfortunately we export our raw materials and then import the finished goods out of our raw materials we export. And I believe that the AFCFTA gives us a great impetus to change that whole dynamic. And once again, I would like to say that the inspiration from the President of a Ghana beyond aid resonates loudly on the African continent. For us to actually monetize the assets that we have through partnerships and linkages and create a better continent of wealth creation and jobs. By 2050, Africa will be 1/4 of the world's population. It would also still have more than 30% of the world's remaining resources, 60% of the arable land left in the world. And it's now due for us to actually turn that into a real development agenda for the world, not just for Africa. I believe that the AFCFTA for us in Ghana gives us a real good opportunity for our SMEs and SMIs to actually get onto the industrial bandwagon and move beyond where we are. I would like to end here. I believe that you've all seen the numbers. These are real numbers. They've been legitimized, but we look forward to doubling, quadrupling those numbers. In broad discussions with a lot of our compatriots, both globally and outside, they do say that if Ghana is to up its game, it could probably be attracting double-figure FDIs in the future. Thank you very much.
It's also obvious that we cannot have this conversation or the rest of this conversation without hearing from the Ministry of Trade and Industry. At this juncture, I'll call on the Honorable Deputy Minister, Herbert Krapper.
I take the opportunity to congratulate the organizers for not only conceptualizing such a brilliant idea, but also taking the steps to implement it year after year. I bring you best wishes from the Honorable Minister of Trade, Honorable Alan Chematin, who is unable to be here with us today. This year's theme, Maximizing Ghana's Investment Potential, is pertinent for many reasons. And the sub-theme that I've been asked to speak to, Emerging Stronger Together, the role of the Ministry of Trade and Industry in maximizing Ghana's investment potential, makes even more vivid the importance of this summit. Many countries in the world are still grappling with how to contain COVID-19, with several economies currently on a bottom dive. Under the sterling leadership of His Excellency the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Ghana's story is not exactly the same. When His Excellency the President commenced work in his first term with a program to clean up and strengthen Ghana's financial sector, coupled with an aggressive industrial transformation agenda and the introduction of revolutionary social intervention measures, our visionary president was clearly seen farther ahead than many of his peers. A gathering of minds to discuss Ghana's investment potential and prospects is yet another reminder that our fundamental challenges as a country, youth unemployment, poverty reduction, and inclusive economic growth, continue to hinge on strategic investment in critical sectors of our economy. Increasing strategic investments into our economy is a necessary condition to spur growth, and ensuring the right investment climate to sustain such investments is equally fundamental. The role of the Ministry of Trade and Industry in maximizing Ghana's investment potential cannot be overstated. In line with His Excellency the President's vision, the Ministry of Trade and Industry has a core mandate as a lead policy advisor to government on the trade, industrial, and private sector development, with the responsibility of formulating and implementing policies for the promotion of domestic and international trade and industry. Since 2017, the Ministry has embarked on a 10-point industrial transformation agenda aimed at maximizing, amongst other things, the investment potential of Ghana. They include the National Industrial Revitalization Program, the very popular One District, One Factory Program, strategic anchor industries, industrial parks and special economic zones, development of micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises, domestic retail infrastructure enhancement, industrial subcontracting exchange, improving public-private sector dialogue, and business regulatory reforms. The business regulatory reforms which are currently being undertaken by the Ministry are to ensure transparency and stability in the investment climate of our country. The evidence shows that such a climate is a sure way of attracting investment into an economy. There are 7 components of this reform program currently being implemented. First, targeted reform initiatives to ease the way we do business in our country, and it's a coordinated national program to improve Ghana's performance in key indicators and annual ranking on World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index. The e-Register of Business Regulations, which is an online inventory that provides businesses with an easily accessible one-stop repository of up-to-date information on all business regulations, laws, directives, procedures, forms, and fees in force in Ghana. The Public Consultation Portal, which is an interactive web portal for centralized public consultation with government institutions on government policies, legal and regulatory reforms. Regulatory impact assessment and ex-post assessment of the impacts of proposed or existing policies or regulations and alternatives to achieving policy objectives. And the rolling regulatory review, an exercise designed to systematically carry out rolling reviews of regulations to eliminate, revise, and simplify business regulations and reduce cost of compliance. And this will also help contribute to the process of updating the e-register on a continuous basis. And finally, the public-private dialogue, a permanent mechanism for structured public-private dialogue which involves regular consultations between government and the private sector. In a few days, the Ministry will be organizing the Maiden Presidential Business Summit with the framework of our public-private dialogue concept. The Ministry of Trade and Industry believes that the full implementation of these reforms, coupled with the complementary efforts of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center and other related agencies, will further improve investor confidence in Ghana. The strategic anchor industries, which include an integrated aluminum industry, iron and steel industry, automobile and vehicle assembly, petrochemicals, manufacturing of machines and machine components, and agro-processing, constitute His Excellency the President's vision of creating alternative growth poles to drive his industrialization agenda. The Ministry of Trade and Industry, in taking a lead role to help grow the economy post-COVID, is poised to spearhead and coordinate even more aggressively all 10 anchor industries. The development of industrial parks and special economic zones is an integral component of government's industrialization agenda. To emerge strongly from the havoc of the pandemic and restore the impressive trajectory of foreign direct investment, the ministry has accelerated efforts to build industrial parks and special economic zones across the country. And the process of developing a policy framework, institutional structure, and the regulatory mechanism to support the establishment of these parks has been initiated. The Ministry of Trade and Industry has also established business resource centers across the country to provide relevant business venture information and technical resources to private sector investors. We have also established joint business councils with some African and European countries to provide ministerial level support for driving investment between Ghana and partner countries. And the German-Ghana Business Council, for instance, provided the framework for the establishment of Volkswagen's facility here in Ghana. Under the Ghana COVID-19 Alleviation and Revitalization Enterprises Support, the Ministry of Finance has graciously allocated 282 million Ghana cedis to the Ministry of Trade and Industry to pursue interventions for the revival of an active trade and industry sector. Light manufacturing, agro-processing, import substitution, automotive, export, and pharmaceuticals will be the focus areas of this intervention. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Trade and Industry intends to leverage the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement to increase investment into Ghana. We have established a national AFCFTA coordination office in Accra and developed for implementation a national plan of action. Currently, enterprise profiling and audits are ongoing with the aim to provide relevant market analysis and operational support to these firms. Enhancing the productive capacity of the private sector and ensuring that the business climate is attractive are a guaranteed prescription for maximizing Ghana's investment potential, and the Ministry of Trade and Industry, under the able leadership of the Honorable Minister, will continue to pursue these even more vigorously. Once again, I congratulate the indefatigable Yofi Grant and his team at the GIPC for organizing this summit and urge all of us to walk all the talk. I thank you for your attention.
We'll move to the Honorable Minister of State Finance, that's Charles Eddo Boahen. He's also going to give us a speech on the sub-theme, Emerging Stronger Together, but on the role of the Ministry of Finance in maximizing Ghana's investment potential.
Honorable Minister for Information, Deputy Ministers for Trade and for Finance, Ambassador Sullivan, and members of the Diplomatic Corps, the CEO of GIPC and the CEO of the Ghana Free Zones Board, directors, heads of public sector agencies and associations, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here with you all today. It is good to see so many from industry, government, and the wider investor community here with us today. During today's summit, I believe you all hear much about the government's commitment towards engaging and incentivizing and mobilizing the private sector and investors on a larger scale. Critically, the COVID-19 pandemic has forced emerging economies such as ours to focus on binding the private sector into open and accountable long-term relationships characterized by fair sharing of risk and the transfer of innovative ideas to lay the foundations for a post-COVID recovery. Undoubtedly, leveraging innovative sources of funding has assumed greater significance. Therefore, our focus as a government has been to prioritize the pursuit of public reforms to create a de-risked landscape for private capital seeking rewarding growth investments. In truth, there has indeed been an extraordinary increase in Ghana's FDI flows since the turn of the century. According to the World Bank, our net FDI inflows have grown from approximately $165 million in 2000 to over $3.9 billion by the end of 2019. FDI as a percentage of Ghana of the gross domestic product has similarly climbed up from an average of 4.2% in the 2000s to 6.5% during the past decade. Indeed, Ghana's average share during the past decade is higher than the sub-Saharan Africa average of 2.3% of GDP, and also notably above such countries as Nigeria, which has GDP flows of 1.0% of GDP, Tanzania, which has 3.1% of GDP, and Kenya, which has FDI flows of 1.7% of GDP. Despite this, there's still great potential that is unfulfilled. This is true of FDI inflows and the degree to which intellectual capital comes in and can be transferred, particularly between local and foreign firms in the construction subsector. In truth, we are at a critical juncture in our development trajectory, with a burgeoning population growing at a rate of 2.26% annually. It has become even more urgent to crowd in capital into both traditional and non-traditional growth sectors to create an inclusive, sustainable, and resilient economy. FDIs are important because they provide critical private sector funding to complement domestic resource mobilization and debt financing to fund our recovery from the pandemic. According to a report published by Fitch, median public debt in the sub-Saharan Africa region leapt to about 68% in 2020 from 56% in 2019, and is likely to rise even further to 75% in 2022. At the Ministry of Finance, our policy mix to attract FDI flows and hence increase investment potential includes, first and foremost, establishing macroeconomic stability, which I must say I believe we've done very well in the last 4 or 5 years. Improving transparency and access to critical macroeconomic data through regular investors' engagements and roadshows is another very important initiative that provides investors with key information to be able to help them make investment decisions. Strengthening our business, legal, and regulatory frameworks to provide the requisite de-risking of private investment. Supporting GIPC to effectively deliver on its mandate by providing fiscal incentives to prospective investors in priority sectors such as housing, health infrastructure, and manufacturing. Ensuring the availability of long-term investment capital for entrepreneurial ventures, productivity-enhancing investments, and asset creation through the formation of such institutions like the Development Bank. Funding the Ghana 100 billion Ghana Cares program to effectively transition our country towards the realization of a modernized, competitive, and resilient economy. Promoting ease of doing business in Ghana, and providing the requisite financial resources to support education and skills training of the labor force, and complementing external investment inflows with a more domestic revenue mobilization effort. Essentially, to support FDI growth consistently and effectively, we realize that we must provide the proper framework of policies, institutions, and support services that make our firms competitive, provides incentives to invest in skills transfer, and provides an opportunity for investors to realize risk-adjusted returns in Ghana, which are far above the sub-Saharan African average. Given the fragility of the economy, both here and across the world, the essential requirement today is to do everything possible to nurture and secure a robust recovery where our economies emerge stronger from the pandemic. Since the start of the year, we have set the stage for the presentation of the exemptions bill to Parliament, instituted clear and comprehensive programs to address youth unemployment, demonstrated a solid commitment to a strong rebound in economic growth and fiscal consolidation, anchored the budget on debt sustainability, strategically repositioned the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund to support the funding of key infrastructure, stabilized the power sector, and mobilized sufficient funds for the Development Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, the government is accelerating structural transformation through digitalization, industrialization, fiscal consolidation, and the pursuit of enterprise. Over the medium term, we expect to record growth levels in the region of 5%, placing Ghana among some of the fastest growing African economies. We will continue to work hard to ensure macroeconomic stability, improve revenue collection through digitalization and other initiatives, and allocate resources to the growth sectors of the economy to ensure economic expansion, increasing opportunity, and prosperity for all our people. We look forward to working with you all in shaping a Ghana that is truly beyond aid. Thank you very much.
Before we go for a message from the special guest of honor, that's His Excellency, the President, we have a special presentation by a special artist, Nana Asase. I'll call him up to the stage to give us his presentation.
A soldier, half asleep or fully asleep, is no less than one, fully awake on duty and alert. The only distance between them is a wake-up call. Ours is both a soldier and a giant, a mother of many nations who needs a reminder that the time for duty is at hand. And so to you all, Sanda Zua, Swahili Benvenu Ghana, Akwaba, Miawizo, or Helebo Atu, welcome to her reawakening. This is that same gathering with collective urgency to be the whistle, the bugle, or the din of the band that calls her to attention. Attention because the heart of industrialization awaits and needs to be fed with the blood of agriculture. Through the veins of technology, to get on the feet of prudent fiscal policy so we can give COVID a kick and then we can feel the pulse of our SMEs through our private-public partnerships. All of this to remedy the challenges of unemployment. Ladies and gentlemen, only then, with a resilient voice of youth, we shall call for foreign direct investments to meet the strength of local industries so that we can all hand over the baton of a better Ghana beyond aid to the capable hands of the future. Pay attention, for this message might be quite short. I hereby declare that her sleep is over and Ghana, our soldier mother giant, is reawakening. And so let us all spark up. Let us call the tune and she will lead Africa's march into the future. But fellow Ghanaians, all of this will rest on the stable neck of an enabling socio-political environment with the head of an able leader. And I dare add that he whom the cap fits, let him wear it. His name remains His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana. Me and Nana, Nsweja, we are Nana Penny. Nana Penny, away you be paying. With the Oshabo, name Midruya, ye show, Sunukukrukwa, Etata, Enche, Obetius Bijam. And so, Africa, world, I summon you to the center to hear the capable head resting on the enabling socio-economic environment of Ghana, ready, resilient, sparking up so that we can take our rightful places.
Shall we be on our feet, ladies and gentlemen?
Minister for Information, Minister of State of the Ministry of Finance, the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, the Deputy Minister for Finance, Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, and the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Free Zones Authority, members of the business and investment community, members of the diplomatic corps, fellow Ghanaians, ladies and gentlemen. I applaud the Ghana Investment Promotion Center under the leadership of its hard-working Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Yufi Grant, for initiating this summit, which is aimed at stimulating one of the most important conversations we should be having in this country, that is making registered investments real on the ground in Ghana. When I assumed office in January 2017, I encouraged all of us to take it upon ourselves to help government build a business-friendly economy that will enable our nation get to the stage where the exploitation of the opportunities that are available to us will help us build an optimistic, self-confident, self-reliant, and prosperous nation, a Ghana beyond aid. Towards realizing this vision, the government has made deliberate efforts at determining the investment priorities of our country and taken steps to mobilize the necessary resources for the growth of these priority areas. This is because we want to help transform Ghana from being a mere producer and exporter of raw materials to a value-added industrialized economy that will provide opportunities, jobs, and prosperity for all Ghanaians, thereby creating a wiser nation that is a wealthy, inclusive, sustainable, empowered, and resilient one. Government since 2017 has put in place measures needed to reduce the cost of doing business, improve the business environment, and made the Ghanaian economy not only one of the most business-friendly economies in Africa, but also one of the fastest growing economies in the world between 2017 and 2020, averaging 7% GDP annual rates of growth, up from the 3.4% rate we inherited in 2016. Indeed, with the economies of many countries around the world in recession in 2020, having recorded negative growth largely as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, Ghana's economy was one of the very few that still managed to record a positive GDP growth. That is 0.1% in 2020, albeit significantly reduced from the average levels of 7% per annum that we had become accustomed to in 2017, 2018, and 2019. In spite of the ravages of the pandemic, we are working to grow the economy at a much faster rate this year, our target being a 5% GDP growth rate, which will enhance the prospects of a win-win environment for both private sector and country, and create an environment where companies do not just survive, but actually thrive. In the first quarter of this year, the GDP of the economy grew at 3.1%. In the second, at 8.9%. Government has a blueprint for the revitalization of the Ghanaian economy from the effects of COVID-19. We have identified the relevant sectors of the economy requiring the needed investment that will help accelerate the rebound and growth of the Ghanaian economy, as was witnessed in the immediate years before the pandemic struck. We call it the Ghana Cares or Bantampa program. The 100 billion CD program will require some 30 billion CDs of funding from government and 70 billion CDs from the private sector. The program focuses on injecting substantial investments into key sectors of our economy, such as agriculture, agro-processing, manufacturing, healthcare, housing, and infrastructural development. In seeking to mobilize the 70 billion from the private sector, it's become even more important to examine also how foreign direct investments are onboarded into the economy of Ghana. So it is critical that this maiden edition of Spark Up be dedicated to exploring ways of improving the turnaround times and the efficiency with which potential investments are integrated into the Ghanaian economy. The Ghana Investment Promotion Center has been at the forefront of handholding potential investors and working to support their establishment in the Ghanaian economy. Let me thus take this opportunity to congratulate the Center for effectively discharging its mandate and promoting vigorously the considerable investments and business opportunities that exist in Ghana, estimated at some 12 billion United States dollars in foreign direct investments from 2017 to 2020. Whilst global FDI declined by some 42% in 2020, in the midst of COVID-19, FDI inflow recorded by Ghana through the GIPC amounted to some 2.65 billion United States dollars, which bucked the global trend, representing a significant increase over the 2019 FDI value. In keeping up with the importance of public-private dialogues as recommended by the Ministry of Trade and Industry, I'm charging GIPC to use the summit as a platform for open, frank, and solution-orientated engagements between investors, regulators, and investment facilitators. I'm hopeful that it will afford the facilitator agencies, regulators, and the relevant public officials on one side the opportunity to engage directly with investors and potential investors on the other, to explore how the various bottlenecks that frustrate and slow down potential investments can be quickly unlocked, for a smooth and quick establishment of all these registered investments to complement the efforts of government in engineering growth and the creation of jobs for our people. The ongoing review of the GIPC Law, Act 865, and institutional reforms, such as retooling and refocusing the center's operations through the institution of the Diaspora Investment Desk and the CARES Delivery Unit, will be crucial in implementing the outcomes of this summit. They will strengthen GIPC to continue to play a lead role in assisting government to mobilize private sector complementary investments for the resurgence of the Ghanaian economy. Let me commend the collaborating organizations for their roles in this project. The Ministry of Information for showcasing this all-important national conversation. The Ministry of Trade and Industry for articulating the relevant policy direction for attracting the most appropriate investments that Ghana requires at this point in time. And the Ministry for Finance for helping to engender the enabling environment that has made Ghana an attractive investment destination. As host country of the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, now is the time for the Black Star to spark up and bring in the needed investments to accelerate the transformation of the Ghanaian economy, and by extension the African one, through the active participation of the private sector in the economic development of our country and continent. I wish you fruitful deliberations, and may God bless us all in our homeland, Ghana, and make her great and strong. I thank you for your attention.
Spark Up 2021, an initiative by the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, and it is taking place at the Kempinski Gold Coast City Hotel right here in Accra. This is Diplomatic Affairs. I have with me the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Mr. Grant, and we will be talking briefly about today's event. So a lot of things came up. You listed the various indicators as to why Ghana is the right place for investors to come and invest. Currently, do you think that is a reflection in the lives of the people, the Ghanaian people?
Well, definitely. I mean, when an investor comes and invests, he brings his money, he opens a company, he employs people. All those people get paid, they pay taxes, etc., etc. So indirectly, yes, it does reflect. I mean, they create jobs. They bring transfer of technologies. They bring fiscal cash and build companies, and these companies employ people, they themselves pay taxes. So yes, it does reflect in the people, but it's not going to be always very obvious that this is what it is, except that, but I can give you good examples. So you take a company like Vodafone, maybe I'll use MTN. MTN has been here for 25 years, they've invested $6 billion. But if you look at the economies they've created, the number of other people who have set up businesses because of MTN, is multiples of that $6 billion. From mobile money agents to card supplies to all that, they have brought in quite a significant amount of secondary economy.
You mentioned some of the reforms that you are currently working on in creating an enabling environment for investors to come. What are the key ones that you might have gathered from people?
Well, we are still engaged in ensuring that whatever reforms we come through with are first in consonance with our own acceptance of the AFCFTA protocols, as well as the ECOWAS protocols. I don't want to, at this point, section it and take them individually, but we are looking at the GIPC law in its entirety to ensure that we have a much more efficient way of assisting business raise their capital needs through investment. And it's not just for foreign investors, it's for Ghanaian investors as well. So what we want to do is to come up with a template or a protocol which is efficient, which also facilitates better protocols for investment, speed of investment, and also imbues confidence in the investor as well.
Right, so you mentioned, my last question will be the diaspora desk created at the GIPC. And most of the time, because of what we do, we engage lots of diasporans, and Ghanaians in the diaspora, they tell us some of the things that they are faced with, such as the obstacles, as in getting access to your office to get the right information. How is it so far with the diaspora desk at the GIPC?
I'm not sure there's an obstacle. We are very open. We have many social media handles, and so anybody who wants to reach us can get through any of these. Sometimes people think that they need to see you physically when really they don't need to, because all the information is there, it's online, or you can actually have access through the social media handle.
And it's very active.
Very, very active. So I would say that we are only getting better by the day and ensuring that we have better lines of contact and can engage even more. We will soon be embarking on a number of diaspora investment, events outside country to go to the people in the diaspora, in the US, the UK, Germany, France. I mean, the countries that have huge numbers of Ghanaians.
Where do we go from here?
Where do we go? Up and up only.
Your Excellency, welcome to Diplomatic Affairs.
Thank you very much.
What's your take on this event?
Well, the Ghana Free Zones Authority is a stakeholder in this summit. We would want to give all the credit to the Ghana Investment Promotion Center for putting together such a laudable event. As you can see, this event is mainly to concentrate in various aspects of investment in the country. Generally, GIPC concentrates on all investments, but the Ghana Free Zones Authority focuses on investment for export, manufacturing for export, services for export. So Ghana Free Zones Authority is mainly concerned with the many companies in Ghana, apart from those we are attracting from abroad, who produce for export and yet pay the same duties, tariffs as companies who are producing for local consumption. And that is one of the things that the president wants to make very clear, that Ghana, because of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which is the new initiative which he has of course spearheaded, we want the world to know that Ghana is the hub for production into Africa, for example. Ghana is the hub for production into Europe, America, and the West of the world. So how do we achieve that? The first thing that we're looking at is the president's mandate of engineering growth and also to create jobs, because Ghana's consumption cannot take all the kind of factories that we want to attract into our space. And for us to be able to do that, we need to focus on making ourselves small but very big. How do we achieve that? Look at countries like, for example, Singapore or Taiwan. Very small population. I mean, Ghana is blessed to have about 30 million. We're talking about a population of 2 million to 6 million in this case. And yet they produce for the whole world. This will achieve one thing, which the president is trying to let us all understand, which is Ghana beyond aid. So now Ghana becomes the hub for attraction of foreign exchange instead of attraction of foreign aid. And in a nutshell, that is the main core mandate of the Ghana Free Zones Authority, and we intend to use this to propel this nation onto the next level of the transformation and industrial agenda.
Now, you recently took over as the Chief Executive Officer for the Ghana Free Zones Authority. What are we to expect from you?
Oh, for me, it's very simple. We are to expect that in terms of countries who are looking to import from Ghana, they would focus on us. In terms of companies who want to export from Ghana, they are going to become aware. As I said earlier, you'll be surprised that there are a lot of companies in this jurisdiction who produce mainly for export and don't have a free zones exemption. Now, that in effect is very painful, because when you're not supposed to pay any taxes, duties, and so on for 10 years for free, and then even after that, after the 10 years, you are to pay up to 15%. So, for example, depending on your industry or even the region that you're set up, you don't have to pay the normal corporate taxes. People don't know that. Another thing that we're trying to do is to incentivize people to go into the regions. So, for example, if your free zone company is in an area near your raw material, we'll give you a free zones license all over the country. It's something which Ghana is a single free zones entity. So these are all information that we need to give to the business community to help them in their decision making. Because when you go actually to some of the regional capitals in Ghana, Ghana taxes you less, not the same as being in Accra. We are looking also to, one of the main achievements we're looking at is to develop the Takoradi Enclave. You know, the Tema Enclave is virtually exhausted, but the Takoradi Enclave, and why is that? One, we're looking at the Takoradi Enclave because we have a railway line that is also going to pass there. It's one of the projects for the railway industry. We all know that we have the Takoradi Harbour, which is the second largest harbour in Ghana. And also in terms of the location, it's something which is very crucial. So we need to develop that.
Strategic.
It's very strategic. We are now also looking at what we call the Wankra port, you know, the land port in Ejiso. We have also got some land there, and we are going to develop that into the next Free Zones Enclave to work with Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Ministry of Trade, all the various stakeholders, so that we achieve for Ghana. That is the most important thing.
Well, thank you so much, Ambassador, for speaking with us. Welcome to Diplomatic Affairs.
Hi, Harriet. It's always nice to see you.
Nice to see you again. Now, let's talk about SPAC Up 2021, an initiative by the Ghana Investment Promotion Center.
Well, I think it's a great opportunity to showcase what Ghana is doing in terms of attracting direct foreign investment. The United States government is very keen on increasing two-way trade and investment with countries in Africa. Ghana is a prime partner for the United States, both in the commercial sphere as well as in partnerships in areas such as health. For example, on Saturday, I was at the airport to welcome 1.2 million plus doses of Moderna. And I'd like to take this opportunity to remind people that we've learned to live with a pandemic. We can invest, but we know how to do it safely. And I really encourage everyone who can get vaccinated to do so.
So, did you meet your expectations for today's event, though? Did you have any expectations in mind, first off?
Well, in fact, so there were a lot of statistics and figures thrown out, and I think it's important for people to see where the trends are. And even though the world suffered some setbacks fiscally because of the pandemic, it's nice to see the determination for Ghana to keep moving forward.
So the U.S. is a major partner in Ghana's development. Have you had any concerns from people, potential investors, and even people already who are on board? Like, what are their major concerns, some of the bottlenecks?
So I'm interested to see the outcome of today's deliberations on the bottlenecks. I think it's great that the government, through GIPC, is very open to kind of ironing out the wrinkles that are there that do frustrate foreign investors, because it's not just attracting people here, but it's once they get here, how are they treated, and what frustrations exist, not just, during the knocking ceremony, but after that as well. And I think having that openness to continuous improvement is very important.
So after speaking with the stakeholders and the policymakers, I decided to speak with the people who are on the ground. And I have with me a delegate, and he has just been on the podium to talk about the challenges, why he decided to choose Ghana to do his business in Ghana. And I would want him to share with us his experience in Ghana, and of course also share with you why he chose Ghana. You're welcome to Diplomatic Affairs.
Thank you, Harriet.
Why Ghana?
Yeah, why Ghana? I would like to answer that on 4 verticals. Probably as an investor, my response would be as an investor and a large investor. Steel manufacturing requires a higher capex than a lot of other manufacturing. So the first vertical would be for an investor. Any investor would like to tick the box around the political stability. So Ghana provides that in plenty. Political stability, the structure, the inherent strength of democracy, inherent belief in democracy around the leadership and the entire country is a big yes and supporting factor that enables investors to make a quick judgment. Second, I would say the structure of the economy. A liberalized economy or on the path of liberalization, such a structure enables us to bring in our skills, our infrastructure, our competencies, and operate on a level playing field. So I would believe that that plays a very important role in making an investment decision. For us also it did. Then thirdly, I would say the location, geographical location is an advantage, and Ghana seizing the opportunity to emerge as a regional hub, and we have strengthened our position in the last 2 decades as an emerging hub in the region. Earlier, other countries occupied that position. And finally, I would say the warmth of the population, the welcoming nature of the population, which allows us to investors to come in and get onboarded very quickly.
Let's talk about some of the challenges in doing business in Ghana.
So for us, I would speak from a manufacturing sector and a steel sector perspective. So the challenges would be definitely land acquisition is a challenge. The process of land acquisition is a relative challenge vis-a-vis other economies. we would say large investments in manufacturing sector need protection, government protection against the imported products, internationally traded products. So we need those challenges are that we need that support, extra cocoon, extra nest, supporting, enabling cushion on front in form of special tariffs on power, water. Such special tariffs will support us in making a profitable product out here and become economically viable. We would like protection against the imported products, special levies being put there, special taxes being put on imported products to enable us be more competitive. I would say these would be the challenges.
And the tax exemption policy is also...
We look forward to that. We look forward to that, and so that a local manufacturer can compete and prosper, so that it can reinvest its proceeds and diversify and enhance its capital contribution in the country.
Sustainability.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Hello, madam. You're welcome to Diplomatic Affairs.
Thank you.
You gave a very beautiful presentation. Now, you talked about your business. Tell us about your business and why you chose Ghana.
Okay. You know, my business actually is a heavy industry. We're dealing with oil tanks, tipper trucks, trailer heads, light trucks, and machineries like bulldozers, excavators, rollers, graders, all kinds of vehicles. Now we're also moving to pickups.
Okay, so why did you choose Ghana?
Just now, as I have said, it was all destiny. I came to Ghana as a poor student, and I started my life from here, so I'm so grateful to Ghana.
Well, how's it going, business-wise? How's the environment like, the business climate for you in Ghana?
Actually, you know, in this world, a lot of people can complain about Ghana. For me, I never want to complain about Ghana, because it is Ghana made me today's Yanya, and Ghana made Zonda today's Zonda. So I started from scratch up to now. Our company is big in Ghana. That is why I'm thankful to Ghana. It is, you know, it's not about my capability. It is this country's development trend, and luckily, what I am doing is meeting the trend of the development in this country. That is why we are also making fortune. We're also developing big in Ghana. That's why I love Ghana.
What about the incentives? Are they okay?
The incentives, you see, as before, when we were doing trading, the policy was to everyone is the same. However, now we have started assembling plants. You know, for assembling plants, government really need to give us incentives, because we are employing a lot of youth. Yes. And in our industry, mainly, we're training the youth. You know, to assemble a vehicle is not easy. We need engineers from China to teach our people for a very long time until they learn how to do it. And this job cannot be done by one person. It is a big group of people. That is why we want tax incentives from the government.
All right, so apart from that, I think everything, so far we have a great business environment, which is having your business in the country.
You know, for Ghana, one thing I love Ghana is the stability, and also the people. They're so friendly. And one thing nobody should forget is the rich human resources. Right. You know, we can see in other countries, maybe they are also having a lot of youth. But in Ghana, look at it, the youth, they're educated youth. And Ghanaians love studying. So these are the push for the society. Definitely, Ghana has great potential for development.
I have one of the delegates with me, and he will introduce himself and his business, and then we will take it from there. You're welcome to Diplomatic Affairs.
Yeah, thank you.
What are the challenges you are faced with as an investor, as a business owner, a foreign business owner in Ghana?
Yeah, the main challenges what I faced is like first with the land, acquiring the land.
Land acquisition.
Land acquisition. Like there are so many litigation issues in almost all my 13 years, for 4 projects I have acquired land, and all of them ended in the litigation issues only. How good we research on that also, finally it ends up there. So that was one of the major problem, and then some theft issues also there in the business. Apart from these 2 challenges, I didn't see any much, but land issue is a long-term headache problem.
Right, and that could deter potential
Yes.
investors from coming into the
Yeah,
country
as
to
you
invest.
see in the presentation, if you see only one agricultural company has registered in FDI. There are 2 reasons for that. One is this, the land litigation issues. Even if you go to the Google and if you see, they all will blacklist Ghana that don't go for agriculture investment in Ghana. The land is a litigation issue. This they highlight everywhere. So this has to be erased until you get more investors in agriculture sector. And secondly, the investment for agriculture, like in Ghana, we need to invest $500,000 to register a company in agriculture, where the other regional countries are registering from $35,000 to $50,000.
So
that's
it is too much here,
too much.
and then it's far better in other countries.
Yes,
so this is something that government needs to look at.
Yeah, they need to.
All right.
Otherwise, the number will stay like that one only. Yeah,
Right.
if they reduce to same on par with the other countries, definitely the agriculture investment companies will rise to 100 plus.
All right. So thank you so much for speaking with us. That's where we draw the curtains for today's episode of the show, and we look forward to seeing you same time next week. Thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of our programs.
Truly African.